to go.
So I'm going to have a conversation with Cindy Berry, who in 2006, at that time was the supervisor of the Health Education Department when they sought and received funding from the Connecticut Department of Public Health for a grant to reduce risk factors for heart attack and stroke in Black communities in our area. So thank you for sharing your perspective with us. I just have a couple questions about the beginning of the grant. What was going on in the community that led Ledgelight to pursue this application for this cardiovascular disease prevention and to form the African American Health Council, Southeastern Connecticut?
Well, I think that one of the things that happened was that the Department of Public Health for the state of Connecticut had released a report that talked about the burden of chronic disease, specifically cardiovascular disease, and the way that it was laid out really looked at the disparities between races. And I thought at that time that Ledgelight Health District really wasn't doing enough to target its interventions to the populations that needed it most. The grant was released, the application was released by the State Department of Public Health, and also at that time we had a number of other coalitions where prominent Black leaders served. And so we kept hearing about the need to look at modifiable risk factors as it pertained to the African American community. So it was just perfect timing, I think.
And did you experience any challenges convening the African American Health Council of Southeastern Connecticut?
No, oddly enough, and that's not true for all coalitions, but I think what was happening at that time were that there were enough prominent leaders in the community who were experiencing heart attack and stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So one after another, we kept hearing about all these people that we knew were doing wonderful work in the community. And these weren't just old African Americans, these were young men and women who were hospitalized and were severely disabled by the experiences that they had. And had they had the information, they said that they might have made different choices.
Okay.
So there wasn't enough surge of interest at that time.
And the work plan that Ledgelight Health District put together for programs in the community, for publicity and other strategies, did you find that any challenges implementing the work plan?
I think that what was difficult was agreeing, looking at the data, and then trying to make sense of what was going on, and agreeing on some strategies because there were so many to choose from. I think that was the difficult thing. I think that the passion was there. I think that people were dedicated. They were in it for the long haul. But I think that there was so much to do at the beginning. Prioritizing was challenging.
Okay. How did you come to work with or find the leadership for the African American Health Council?
Well, I think that we wanted to start by reaching out to all of the Black churches in the area. And so I sent a very routine letter asking people if they knew of any leaders in their congregation, people that had stepped up that were interested in health, that were interested in health disparities, if they could please ask those people to call me. Well, a couple of days later, Ken Harris appeared in my office, having received the letter as a pastor, and said, "I'm your person. I'm the one that wants to lead this coalition." So it just happened that Ken was interested. We also had Jackie Massett, who was already on our board and a leader in the Black community, and so the two decided to co-chair this very important coalition. That we're not looking at the root causes, that it's not just enough to give somebody a prescription, but that person may not ever be able to afford to get that prescription filled.
Yes.
Or they might not have the support at home. Or although they're taking prescription drugs to help their blood pressure, they're still living right next door to a fast food restaurant where they're getting the majority of their food that's higher in salt.
So Steph, pose the question and have her look at you to get the answer. Actually, she doesn't have to pose a question. You can just start if you want. I mean, you know what you... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I would love it. I wish we had just been taping the whole time and you could have just framed my jump out because
I-
that's a perfect segue, because I was trying to figure out how am I gonna start talking about this legacy thing and the equity stuff that we did,
Right.
and this was perfect.
So ask her, how can you start talking about the legacy and the equity stuff? The ramifications, the implementation,
Okay.
yeah, ask her.
What more can be done? Raising awareness, outside of the programs that we've done, what more can be done to have better outcomes regarding cardiovascular health, and not just in the Black community, but just overall?
Well, I think that you're on the right track. I think that by educating people, by screening people, I think that that does a tremendous service to individuals who are wanting to make good choices about the decisions that they make that impact their health. But it needs to be broadened. There needs to be some things that are complementing those individual kinds of programs by looking at the conditions in which people live. That it's not enough to help somebody to understand that intaking sodium has an adverse reaction to their blood pressure. And if they're taking medication, that's great. But if they're living down the street from fast food restaurants and they don't have access to fresh produce, then it seems like we're falling short.
So, what do you see as other things that we, as both the health department and coalitions like the African American Health Council and other coalitions like the Achieve Coalition that you oversee, can do to improve those conditions?
I think that one thing that helps to reduce health disparities and health inequity is to look at policies that affect the majority of people in a community, and to make sure that we're all on an equal playing field, that we all have access to fresh produce, that we all feel safe in our community, that we all have opportunities to quit smoking and not to have access to tobacco, that our communities change to protect our health, and that we'll find if we design our communities in a way that does that, the rest will follow, regardless of what population you live in.
Perfect, perfect.